Hey y'all, today I'm going to show you how I got rid of the wheel play in my Traxxas Slash. Check this out. Alright, what we have here is a bushing that I made out of the replacement bushings that you get for your Valenian rebuild kits. I actually have a supplier in order to buy these. I'm going to be buying these and making them. I can't get them cut, I have to cut them myself. But I'm going to work on making these in kits, and I plan on selling them to y'all. So let me know in the comments if you're interested in losing all that terrible wheel play that a Slash has. The rest of the mod here, as far as wheel play goes, is just a little bit of ingenuity and 2 screws here. It is an 8mm tapered head, 3mm screw. I used to say 8mm long, 3mm taper head screw. And you drill your RPM. It's kind of important to use an RPM camber block because the stock camber blocks don't have the clearance up here on the tab for you to actually countersink that hole. Get her worked there so you can see what's going on. So anyway, you take your 1/8 drill bit, little guy right there, and you drill up through your camber block. Knock that hole out 1/8 inch. You take your big drill bit here. Could use a countersink if you wanted to on the bottom. It's not going to work for the top. You're not going to be able to fit a countersink in past the tab. So I just used this drill bit here, which is, let me check the size on that. That is a 7/32. 7/32 drill bit that I used with my fingers. Put some tape on it. Cut your fingers up. But I used my fingers just to countersink that hole until them screws set flush in there. Really important the top sits flush because it won't clear the eyelet for the, would be called the camber rod, I think. But yeah, get all that done, get it all fitted really nice. Nothing needs to be done to the stock spindle if you're using the stock bearing carrier. I like the stock bearing carrier because it holds the bearings tighter than an RPM bearing carrier. If you're using an RPM bearing carrier, you need to drill that center out big enough so that you can fit a 6mm bushing through the hole. Now keep in mind, this bushing will not fit through that hole with the stock pin running up through your camber block and your spindle. That's why I use 2 screws. You can't have them meeting in the middle there. Let me get a flashlight out here. If this is even gonna work. Can't get the camera to focus. Anyway, here we go. Let's do this. I run that pin up through there as if it was stock oriented. You can see that the pin hangs out inside there. Well, that will interfere with that bushing. If you're handy, you could file the bushing down, file a little groove in the bushing right there so that it doesn't hit the pin. But I recommend, if you're going to take the time to put these bushings in, you might as well take the time and build this up here. Now, so that takes care of the front wheels, out at the wheels, at the spindle and everything like that. That just eliminates all my play. I'm going to show you the finished product here once I put it all back together. Now, as for your steering bell, this was pretty handy. This is 1/2 of the steering bell. Well, I gotta buy a better camera, guys. So, parts I used to bushing that steering bell so that it does not play anymore is a 20mm screw, 20mm long M3 screw. This one here's a button head Allen. I took this little bushing here. Comes with your shock kits, your shock spacers. This is to stop your tops of your shocks from unscrewing. You put the, you know what I mean, you put this in there. You usually use this for the aluminum ones. You use aluminum caps. You put this in there and it stops your aluminum caps from running on metal. However, I have the updated, much better than aluminum, I think, heavy duty tops to my shocks. I like these a lot better. I like them a lot better. I use the aluminum ones. I use the stock ones. These ones are the ticket. Yeah, so I had these left over. You take three of these little guys will build your bushing kit for your spindle, or your steering crank, bell crank. So, as you can see, bell crank, even the aluminum ones had crazy amounts of slop in them. I'm actually using the stock one in my truck because it's lighter, and that matters to me. I don't really bash my truck. I race it. So, you know, if it gets hit on the track, it gets hit in the track, you know, and not to mention the stock one's like what, $5, $6? I'm probably wrong, but somewhere in there, you know, it's cheap. I paid a lot of money for this aluminum one. It's kind of heavy. It was really, really sloppy at first until I did this bushing kit to it. But yeah, so as you can see, I have one of those shock hat spacers in there. I took the third one. Probably wonder why I need three, because here's the second one. Took the third one. I cut it off right at the shoulder, right where that shoulder is. I took a razor blade and I rolled it until it cut through it. Careful you don't cut your fingers, because it's tricky. I cut that off at that shoulder, and then I took that piece, the smaller diameter piece, and I cut it in half. Again, makes two of these, and then I'll have two of these. Let's see if I can do this. And you'll stack one in there. I have that upside down. Stack it in there if I can do it. Yep, there it is. Stacked it in there. Take this one, stick them up in there, and what you should end up with is a little bit of extra hanging out the bottom there. That's a good thing. You want that. And what I do is I'm going to figure out which hole goes in here. If I didn't have to hold the camera, tell you what, I'll be right back. I'm not going to hold the camera while I'm doing this. All right, let's try this out. So, got my bushing in there. Got a little bit of space on the bottom, a little space on the top. That lets a little thrust room here. You're going to want that. I'm going to take this screw here. Same concept for the plastic ones, or for your stock steering bell. Like I said, which I prefer. It allows a little bit of flexion of steering so that it can take some abuse. And I don't have any issues with it once you get this all bushinged up. So we're going to run this screw up through. I am doing that right? That's a big negative, I think. Doing everything upside down to try to watch through the camera here. Could get my little electric driver out here. Probably should. I show you that guy. Show you guys that thing. It's real neat. I think you can grab them up at Harbor Freight or Walmart. Tough enough to do the job, but it ain't really tough enough to blow all your screw holes out. Get that in there nice and snug because it's aluminum. I got that on there, like so. And run that guy up through there, like so. Now I'm going to take a nut. I'm going to stick a nut in the end here. What's going to happen is I'm going to have a level of adjustment on how tight I make this. Because as you turn this nut down, I turned that down and it stopped. Leaves me a little bit of wiggle room yet. I can take that nut and just snug her up a little more. And it kind of compresses the plastic. It really, really gets it to fit good. And this side here it's got a little bit of friction to it. Just a tiny, tiny bit. Just enough to hold itself up. Just enough. It goes real free right there. This side over here, I got her little, she's a little tight. Let's turn it back out just a little bit. You do want to use a nylon nut. Nylon inserted nut. You don't want that guy coming off because he doesn't need to be cranked tight. There we go. That plays real nice. It's got real nice function to it there. I still have a little bit of up and down thrust. It's ideal. Anyway, there we go. No play. No wiggle room at all. So when your truck's sitting there and it's driving down the road, it don't got all this wiggle and slop in here. I can't stand that. You can't get a good alignment if you got all that wiggle room. And alignment has a lot to do with how it handles. So now onto this piece. I didn't do anything to modify this. This is a stock bearing carrier spindle for Traxxas Slash 2-wheel drive. Completely stock. Turns out these holes are perfect for 3mm screws to thread into already. I'm going to take my eight millimeter, 10mm tapered head screws. Stick my guy in here, make sure he's the right way. I'm going to take the longer one up through the bottom. If you got eyeballs, you can probably see that the bottom of the camber block is thicker. And like I said, when you're done, you do not want them protruding. You do not want them protruding through the inside of it. Someday, guys, someday I'm going to have a better camera, better light. Now, I turn these guys in until they stop. Tapered hole. I said taper her down until she's about flush. I should have put this one in first because I still got my pin in there. I have to work them past it. There we go. Yes, if you do not get this top hole countersunk, you will have clearance issues with that rod end. So make sure you get her sunk far enough. Not too far, but far enough. Now I run them in until they're tight. See what that looks like when it's done. I wonder why my flashlight doesn't really work for that. Yeah, there's what it looks like. Top and bottom. See, you don't have to countersink that bottom one so far. You want a little bit there, though, because it gives it more surface area to sit on. Stay tighter. You might think that this bottom screw is going to crank itself out. I haven't had an issue. I even lubricated it and then threaded it in there just to see if it would come out. It hasn't come out. I got a good couple runs on this truck now. A little bit of bashing, so nothing broke. Now, my screwdriver, I'm going to back both these screws out one turn. Oh, no, quite enough. There we go. It's backed out one turn. Beautiful movement. No wiggle. There's no wiggle there. You can't hear it. You can't see it. But it's got a nice, fluent move. A little bit of resistance on it. But I honestly don't think your servo or your servo saver is going to care. So that's that. Now on to punching in some bearings. See, these stock ends, the bearings snap in so much nicer. I actually have a brand new RPM bearing. I'm going to show you here why I don't use the RPM fronts. Well, I don't really care for RPM parts to begin with. They're tough. That's a brand new one right there. Brand new, no dirt. RPM end. I'm going to stick a bearing in it. There's a bearing in there, right? That's garbage. That does not do you any good. If you put new bearings in it, what's the point if they don't sit in there tight? So I have a little trick for that. I take a pick. It's like a straight pick, straight punch. It's a pointy piece of metal. And I'll poke 4 to 6 holes around the very rim of this, pretty deep as I can get it. It spreads the plastic out. It will hold the bearing tighter, but I don't like mangling my parts to make them work. Anyway, this is an old, used, very well used, stock bearing carrier spindle. And as you see, bearings don't fall out. I went and done stuck that one in there, and I didn't put my bushing in. So now I take my bushing that I acquired from rebuilding my Valenian motor. And I cut this down to 220 thousandths length. It is a 6 millimeter outside diameter bushing with a 0.45 millimeter thick wall, which makes it 5.1 millimeters inside diameter. Just so happens it fits real nice on the on the shaft there. So I'm going to drop that bushing down in there. And as you're going to see, clearances get kind of tight in there. Well, you don't want them screws to protrude out into that void there a little bit. You don't want that. You can have it. Look, you can do this with the stock pins, but like I said, you're gonna have to work with that bushing a little bit. Put a groove in it or something right there so everything clears. You don't want any binding going on there. It'll make a bunch of heat, and it just won't work right. Push all this together. Put my bearing in there. Here's what I'm doing. I'm putting 1 spacer on these. That bushing's 220 thousandths long. Not really sure what that is in mils. I think it's like something like 5 mils, something like that. 1 washer, 1 spacer, one of them little nylon spacers in there. Put the pin to it. Get my old smashed out wheel hex because I'm over tightening it all the time. Snap her in there and check that out. I have literally maybe 1, 2, maybe even 3 thousandths of an inch of thrust there. And that's excellent. Once this is all tightened up, it won't have any. The only thrust that it will be is the bearing actually moving in and out of the spindle, which is probably such a small amount you won't even be able to see it on camera. At least not this camera, because I can't get it to focus at all. Yeah, anyway, that is top-notch spindle right there. that has no wiggle once it's all tightened up on the truck. And like I said, I have a steering bell that has no wiggle once it's all tightened up on the truck. And everything moves real nice as long as you have it adjusted properly. Like I said, I've been running this too. I haven't had to readjust it. It's been working out great. All right, I'll be right back after I put this all together. All right, got it all back together. Everything's in, everything's tight. Here's what we're working with. We got a little bit of, hang on here. Guess who that guy is? That's that guy right there. He is kind of old. But that's literally all the steering slop I have right there. Look at up and down play. Just what the bearing provides me. Just what the bearing provides me there, because yeah, we all know those are super precision bearings that they put in these things. Actually, I think the bearings I got here I bought out of a tube from China. But that's it. Oh, yeah, and some of that there's them rod ends too, you know. I mean, I put new rod ends on it, but I think the metal inside them wears out a little bit. My rod ends didn't come with the new eyelets, the new metal eyelets. Here's this side. As far as left and right, it is ever so slightly in the tie rod. That's just a killer, I tell you. Them rod ends. What am I saying? That's way better than stock, you know? That's way better. And look, I did the same thing for the back with the bushings. The bushings in the rear were cut to 110 thousandths in length for me to end up with this. Some of that is, well, most of that all is just bearing play. Just the center of the bearing. But that makes me happy. Makes my truck drive good. It allowed me to set my alignment up really close. Got it handling. It's handling like a dream, man. I can flick the stick a little bit and just drive it with the throttle, man. Drive right through a corner with a throttle. I love it. I have a lot of fun. I hope it helps you guys out. Throw a message in the comments there if you guys are interested in buying some of these bushings. I'm thinking they're going to be around $10 to $15 for a kit. It'll be all 4 bushings, cut to size. There's a possibility I'm even going to throw the screws in to do the mod to the RPM camber blocks. Let me know in the comments what y'all think. If you're interested in these things, I'll try to get them to you. All right? Till next time, y'all.